It's I guess Americans might call it a pretty low rent event.
And we wanted that whole kind of grassroots. This is us, the community, putting something together. It's not some people do a conference and then you attend. It's more everyone gets together and does a conference.
LugRadio listeners came from all over the UK and beyond to attend the event.
Well, to be honest, I was quite apprehensive about the first one. It was a fairly big trip to undertake, just to go and meet some people you've never met before.
I wanted to meet all the people I've just known in the forums by their pseudos, their nicknames, and I wanted to meet in face-to-face, and I wanted to hear the voices of people.
And it was that social aspect that really appealed. That really made it. That was really impressive. Obviously it's got bigger, it's got more grand, and there's more people appearing. But I just like the way that the social aspect is really what's built it out.
The following year, the LugRadio Live event was held at Wolverhampton University Student Union, this time over 2 days. About 500 people turned up. So what is the appeal of LugRadio Live?
In some ways, the live event is the more unique part. I think that there are other Linux podcasts, and so in terms of kind of getting audio content, that's still available. For the live show, there really isn't anything like it in the UK at the moment.
It's got to be somewhere that's not a typical conference venue, because we want people to go there and feel looser. So we typically want a bar there. We want it to feel a little bit amateurish in some ways. So a student union or an independent cinema is ideal.
The LugRadio Live is very much a social community event, but they're still pulling some of the big names, and that's always been good to actually, you get to see some of the people, some of the luminaries, and also guys from the community.
It's a lot of networking, a lot of socialising with people, meeting people from projects, people may not necessarily have the time of day for you ordinarily, you're meeting these people.
I avoided letting my hangover get to me, because there is that social aspect, and a lot of people don't drink, but I do occasionally partake. But don't give in to the hangover, don't give in to the exhaustion, just get out there and make the most of the weekend while you're here, because it is just a weekend in a year.
British people usually are really a bit cold at first, and then after that they're absolutely awesome and friendly, etc. And I really, really enjoy that because of that.
Also, the fact that you can wander into a talk that I would probably not have a notion about, and it ends up being really, really interesting, because the bits that you do understand, you're like, wow, that's fantastic, and the bits you don't understand, you're like, geez, I better find out about that and learn an awful lot more.
It's kind of a mixture of, proper technical stuff, and we have people talking about, writing device drivers, for God's sake, and then people in thongs.
Men in thongs. I know I shouldn't be saying it, but it's true. It's just hilarious. It's like, it's turned that whole, if you go to any kind of expo or thing where there's, primarily a male audience, a lot of the time they're selling stuff with chicks in, relatively skimpy clothes. And LugRadio Live proves why they don't do it with blokes in skimpy clothes.
Welcome to Adam Sweet's Gone With Thong Michael Talk Extravaganza with your wonderful host, Adam Sweet! Thank you. Looking good, eh?
No offence to Ben, no offence to Adam, but those are two just amazing sights to behold.
One of those conversations where you just think, I know I'm saying no now, but they're just going to keep asking until I say yes, because they know that eventually I will say yes. It's going on eBay after this. And the plan gradually changed over the course of the next kind of 48 hours. Originally, the large foam head was going to stay on for the entirety, which would have been a different matter. But apparently, it's funnier when you take it off. So Jono keeps telling me.
To anybody who's kind of tuning into this from about kind of 20, 23, 24, and knows my daughter in her teenage years, if you tell her, I kill you. Okay. So I get that straight now.
Technology shouldn't be really dry and dull and boring, and lots of people sitting there stroking their beards and kind of it should be a laugh. We do this for fun.
If it was just the four of us, it wouldn't be a show. Having everyone chip in and make it cool. Every time we do it, we have everyone they'll come in and we'll set up the network, and we'll make the stage, and we'll fill all the nut sacks. And this is why we always get the crew to stand up and take a bow, and they get a yellow t-shirt and so on, because we want people to feel like they're part of it.
It should be about the community. It's a community show. It should be about the community. Linux Expo isn't about the community in any way, and we need a community show.
But the community doesn't just help run LugRadio Live, they're also one of the main reasons the show was so successful.
And we knew we wanted to have a community around the show, to have people being part of it and us talking to them. We're not going to just disappear up into our mountaintop and then deliver a show.
All we set out to do was record our chats, really. I mean, honestly, it wasn't anything more ambitious than that.
I think it's the thing we're most proud of, is that there's always 100 people sat in an ISE channel, and they're not always talking about LugRadio. In fact, they're rarely talking about LugRadio.
We couldn't quite believe people were that interested in listening to what we had to say, because we had interesting conversations, but we weren't a news source. We weren't special people in our own right. We were just people who were having a chat about things.
People from the LugRadio community are part of it, are part of the crew at LugRadio Live, are on the show from time to time, help us out with things. And that's great. So we have tried really quite hard to make sure that kind of thing's involved.
Why is the community so important?
A couple of people have asked me while I've been here, how are you going to commercialise this? Where do you go professional? And I don't think it would work, because the community is everything.
Really, without the kind of the #LugRadio crowd, not only the guys in the podcast, but the guys in the IRC channel and the guys that do the clan gaming and people that mail into the show. Without those people, we would just be like four guys sitting in front of four microphones and not really kind of knowing whether anybody's actually paying any attention at all.
Then when the emails started coming in, I suppose it was that made it worthwhile, let's say. The fact that there was a community around it made the podcast worth the effort.
The longest segment in the show always is the emails, and we have way more email than we can ever read out. Normally I go through and I print the emails, it's all low-tech fantasticness, and I'll print out all the emails that arrive in the 2 weeks in between show recordings, and we'll normally read 6 or 8 emails, and we normally have 5 or 6 times that.
At the end of season 1, when it wasn't announced as the end, it suddenly, episode 12 went out, and then there was a big gap. And I think at that point, the community really started to come to the front, and the forums and IRC were basically the only places where people could go and try and find out what was happening and whether there was going to be a new show.
And the kind of people who can listen to the show were the kind of people we'd like, which was really good when people didn't like the show, because we basically said, well, we probably wouldn't like you anyway. So if someone said, I think your show's obnoxious and crass and terrible and rubbish and all this kind of stuff, we'd generally be there, well, your opinion really doesn't matter to us, because we don't want to know you anyway. So we've developed this community of people who are very like-minded.
We have occasionally been accused in the past of not brilliantly researching segments that we've done, and it's not an accusation without a grain of truth in it. It has to be admitted. So we'll talk about something, and then we'll get emails afterwards, or people will say on the forums, no, actually that's complete bullshit because you missed out on this and this and this and this.
And the only reason this thing actually works is because a lot of people put in a lot of effort behind the scenes, and without them it would be rubbish. It wouldn't happen.
By being part of the LugRadio community, there's a certain amount of feeling of involvement with other communities, so I think that I would feel more inclined myself to get involved in other communities that have kind of either been linked to or come from LugRadio. I feel linked to them in a way that I probably didn't before.
Several presenters have left the show over its 5 seasons, and replacements have been found. So what does it take to be a LugRadio presenter?
I think you've got to have a good sense of humour is the main thing.
It just so happens that me and Jono share a kind of similar crude sense of humour.
In an individual, it's got to be a good sense of humour and a passion about something, whether that's servers or whether it's web stuff or community or whatever, it doesn't really matter, but passionate about something. People need to be able to hang their coat on that person.